this year's been the exact opposite. My 2 weeks I thought would be chill or that would be crazy, were very chill, and now these last weeks have been chaos. But all good. All good.
So I'm a big fan of not talking before the record's happening, so we can keep it all natural and organic. So I hit the recording. So we're recording now, Jared Kligerman.
Amazing. This is what I love. Let's do it live. Let's keep it flowing. Let's keep it organic. Way it should be.
That's exactly the plan. So, Jared Kligerman, welcome and thank you for joining me live in the lab today. We are here on a enhanced live broadcast. Old Uncle Keith introduced it all live, but we got Jared in on the old recording today. How's it going? Where are you joining us from?
Thanks for having me, Keith. I'm joining you from Toronto here in chilly Canada. Although not that chilly today, as it turns out, but normally very chilly.
Yeah, so you don't know then. I'm in Winnipeg.
Oh, amazing. I didn't know you were in Winnipeg. For some reason, I thought you were just on the other side of the border. Oh, that's amazing. Yeah,
so you talk chilly, buddy. I know. I got chilly on you.
Yeah. You got chill, my man. I was just chatting with a buddy of mine. I got called him tomorrow, too, actually. He's also in Winnipeg. And he was lamenting how bad the weather was. And then his son got sick just before our call. He's like, I have to bail on our call. But yeah, all good. Go deal.
That's how it works. That is how it works. So I did nothing to introduce you today. My cameras are messed up here today because I like to have the guests do the introducing themselves. So I'll just kind of set it up. So first of all, bapl Nation, Jared's a dad. He's a proud dad. And if you look at his LinkedIn profile, he's a dad first. So Jared, introduce Jared Kligerman to the Business Athlete Nation.
To Business Athlete Nation. Hey, Business Athlete Nation. What's going on? I'm Jared. As Keith so kindly pointed out, I'm absolutely a dad first and foremost. Family is one of the most important things out there. It's why I always put it first and foremost. Health and family first. Always time for everything else later on in life.
Yeah.
So that's what I spend most of my day doing. I wish that's what I spend most of my day doing. My 9 to 5 it's a little different. I run a marketing agency called The Think Tank. We're an omni-channel agency, been around for over 30 years, working with mostly consumer packaged good brands across North America, developing campaigns to get consumers excited to come and try and buy their product. So that can be a small brand getting into an independent retailer who needs to do some point of purchase displays, all the way up to working with global multinational companies to develop North American-wide below-line marketing for the year. So we really handle a wide range of clients there. And my role at the agency is agency strategy and biz dev, because I have experts in the agency who do what we do. Because I'm a transplant from management consulting, background in sciences, not marketing.
Yeah.
Those two go very hand in hand.
Don't they?
Oh, they really do. They really do. And what I discovered since I joined the agency and started working with it is, my first couple of years, I kept running into the same challenge talking to emerging brands, which was they'd tell me what was going on. I'd develop a campaign or an idea for them, and they'd come back like, dude, that's amazing. It's just not for us. What do you mean it's not for you? You told me everything. I think.
Yeah.
What's going on? Right. And a couple things played into that. One, they weren't telling me everything. It's one of those things where once you've become a founder and you've been part of the founder community, you understand that there's a lot of topics that are talked about very quietly in hush-hush tones, which is really instrumental, actually, I think, to the entire industry. But I was really sick and tired of being kept out of these conversations because it was impacting my ability to help. And that's really what I want to do. First and foremost, is help whoever I'm connected with get further along their path. So that's building a brand, your own career journey, whatever. And so very fortuitously, as the pandemic hit, things slowed down at the agency. And I'm not an business idea guy, but I had a couple, one of which was good enough to take to market. So my wife and I launched a peanut butter company called Wander. Partly because the idea was good enough, partly because I come from a family of entrepreneurs and I needed to scratch that itch. But a huge part of it was to help what I was doing at the agency, right? Like I need to understand CPG. I need to understand what the challenge is getting to shelf. Why isn't that brand that I think is absolutely incredible, has an amazing product, struggling to get in? So what's happening? And so I was a CPG founder. I shut it down after about 3 years for all the big reasons. All brands shut down. Didn't have enough margin, didn't have enough capital, didn't have enough time. And a big one is I didn't have enough purpose-driven passion. If you're doing anything, especially a CPG product, if you're launching anything today, it's so hard to do that if you don't have deep-seated belief in what you're doing, a passion for it, a deep cause that's so core to who you are, driving everything, when things start going sideways on you, and they will constantly, you're putting out fires more than anything else when you start anything, business, project, social media channel, whatever, you hit enough of those road bumps, And you start to ask yourself, why the hell am I putting myself through this hell? And those who have that deep purpose, whether that's someone like, Ted over at Partake Brewing, or Sarah at Chiwi's, or like any of these amazing brands, it goes back to that they have passion, that they say, you know what? Yeah, it sucks, but I know how important it is for this product to be out in the market, or this to be out there to help these people. And we didn't have it with my product because we were just a fun peanut butter company. It's a lot of fun. I had a great time doing it, but learned it wasn't for me. Which is awesome, but definitely took those learnings back to the agency and have certainly influenced what we do there. But that's a very long answer to who I am.
Jared, thank you for that. So I just want to pause for a second here, make sure I understood you correctly. So you and your wife paused life and started a CPG, and it didn't, right? The peanut butter company, right?
Correct. When I just to put a slight caveat in there, both of us have 9-to-5 jobs and have had them the entire time. So I had the agency running in the background.
Okay, gotcha. So you didn't step out. It was I don't like the word hustle, but it was a side opportunity.
100%, and done very intentionally that way. So as my wife and I was definitely the driving force behind it. Mostly just through my own skill set and experience, not that she didn't want to.
Yes.
But also because my 9-to-5 is the agency, where I have a team of 7 who do most of our core stuff. So especially when we started, it being the pandemic, there wasn't enough work for me to be really active. I had the time to do it. And then my wife has a 9-to-5, which she's been at this entire time as well, for a company that specializes in geographic information systems. So taking data with geotags and mapping it out and making it so you can analyze it. She works for the leader in that industry. So we both had jobs for all of us.
I'm a fan of your story, because what you said to yourself at the time, what it sounds like was, if I'm going to learn about CPG and learn how to rep my clients, I need to go be my client. So you dug into your pockets and said, okay, we're going to go and try to start this peanut butter product and go and pretend we are a client of ours. And we're going to go and create social proof for ourselves, because it seems like in 2024, all anybody wants to see is social proof. So you and your wife went and created that. Am I correct with that? That's awesome. Good for you guys.
Thanks, man. I appreciate that. Yeah, we took it very slowly, because one of the best things I think I had coming into this entire CPG experience was my previous talking to all these founders, having been in and around the industry. So not to discourage anyone from quitting their 9-to-5 and going whole hog into whatever their idea is. But I know the chance of success in the market.
Yes.
It is sub 5%.
Yes.
Right. Sub 5% of brands make their first meal. It's shocking in food and beverage. So we went into this.
Incredible.
Yeah.
It's not low, right?
It's It's so like when I had the idea, I literally had it while I was cooking something in my kitchen. And I kind of turned to my wife and was like, "Hey, what do you think of this?" She's like, "Sounds cool. Go build a business case. Come back and sell me it." Okay, cool. So I went and did that, and I ran all my numbers. And so, I went to her and I said, look, I want to spend this much cash on it. Here's what I think a success rate is. Here's what I think the market is. But if we're going to take this risk and we're going to lay in the cash, which came out of my own pocket, I didn't have funders. It's all self-funded.
Of course. Yeah, bootstrapping.
If I'm going to do this, we are going to have some really clear KPIs and milestones. And if we don't hit any one of them, we are pulling the plug. There's no hemming and hawing. Well, let's just wait one more day. I wanted to be really clear cut, because one of my experience in management consulting, we worked with a lot of family-owned businesses and a lot of startups. And one of the things that I saw, seeing company after company, founders hanging on for too long and trying to make something when there's nothing there. And that's not to say you need to quit early. You do need to be tenacious. You do need to push through those first few challenges, but I had really clear-cut lines. So we didn't hit a couple of them for sure, and this is where it's so important for you to not just be like, oh, we didn't hit that metric, we're done, right? You have to look at the bigger picture, understand the dynamics, understand what's going on in the economy. And so I was looking at all these factors, and so we missed a couple milestones and key KPIs, but there's reasons for it. And my wife and I discussed it at length and said, do we keep going? Do we not keep going? Because one of them was going to dictate whether or not we put more money. And we ended up doing it. Maybe a mistake looking back, potentially, given that we shut down the company. But it was one of those things where those were small bumps towards the end of, so we shut it down January 2023. So towards the second half of 2022, we started getting alerts from my supplier saying, hey, here's our new pricing. Here's the new delivery costs. Here's just everything, because inflation caught up to us finally. And I went back to every supplier, had the conversations, and our margins weren't amazing to begin with, for retail in particular. And so looking at where my margins were going to end up with no clear path on how to fix that aspect. It was a really easy decision. Not hitting our KPIs, don't have clear paths forward, don't have enough time to dig deeper, don't have enough capital, trying to float and figure it out. So it was a really clean, black, white, yeah, we're done. Am I sad about it? Kind of. But no, not as close to many other founders I know who like shutting down their business. I don't like describing your businesses as a kid, because having a kid is not the same, but you do your business is your life. And so to shut it down is a tough decision. So it really hurts a lot of founders when they do it. For myself, it was such a clean business decision. It was like, it sucked that I had to shut down, wish it had gone longer. But one of my biggest objectives of launching it was to learn. And I got that learning. I got so much learning.
That to me, I'm glad you used that, because that to me was the key point. Like everything else
100%.
was part of the journey, but the key goal was one thing: learn. And you Absolutely. And your wife sat down and said, okay, we're going to spend this money on learning. The results will be the results, but during the way we are going to learn, and we'll turn that learning into making money.
Absolutely. Yeah, and it was really the way we did it. And we learned a ton, both about business, about the retail space, about CPG. Yeah. We learned that I love creating content. I love creating, but not on the schedule that's required. That burnt me out so bad. It's one of the biggest reasons I haven't launched my own podcast, haven't really reinvented my own socials outside of LinkedIn, because I went so hard for 3 years on it. And dude, it's a ton of work. I mean, you know this, you market all the stuff you do. It's so much work. And when you're on top of a 9 to 5 and I had my daughter was 3 at the time, and life, man. Let's
talk about this for a second, because I'm glad you brought it up. I have a post sitting in my drafts, and the hook is this: if you're just gonna dabble in LinkedIn, don't bother.
Yep.
Like if you're just gonna dabble in social content, make a better choice. Go spend time with your family, because that's going to get the better payoff for you. What I'm seeing again, right? So I stepped out of social for a long time. I don't know if you know my story, but we worked together here in Canada for a long time. I ran a social agency here just down the street from you. But anyways, did you know that?
I didn't actually. Yeah.
Yeah. So I worked for, I bootstrapped a little social media company called ICUC, Social Media Moderation Services. I sold it to Aegis Media in 2011 for $50 million. I then went on to, run the company as a CEO for 10 years. And I was working for Dentsu here in Canada. So I worked with Annette Waring. I worked with all the Canadian.
All the biggies. If you're Dentsu, that's everyone, man. That's all. Someone just asked me recently, like, have you heard of Dentsu before? I'm like, yeah, of course I've heard of Dentsu. You crazy? They're one of the biggest agencies out there. Yeah.
Yeah. So I was part of their executive team. Wow. But I'm not really an executive guy, as you can kind of see. So I sold the company. A lot of stuff happened. It was all great and everything. Then I got a proverbial phone call in February of 2011, which was, ring, hello. Yes, Keith, we're taking the company in that direction. Yeah. And we'd like you to go in that direction.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay, bye. So anyway, so that was my journey up. No regrets. So they were kind to me. They were great to me. I sold it, went on to run it for 10 years, but then I left. I became a ghost. I went and raised my family, took care of my kids, et cetera, et cetera. And then last year I was like, I'm going to go back and contribute to society again. And I started the show and started my business. But we're getting back to the idea of posting content. And I left social 7 years ago because it was with my head and it was with my life. And I built a social media company. So I was living inside of it my whole life. And I'm like, I got to get out of it. So I left it. So now I'm back into building a business again. And man, do you got to be on a schedule?
Do you ever, man? It's so, I love that you brought that up. And I agree with you. If you're going to be on a platform, if you're just there to view and to absorb, be on whatever platforms you want. Like yes. I've got accounts. Yes. I have Facebook. I got all the Meta accounts. I'm not on them. I open them once in a blue moon to check my messages and for a quick scroll. TikTok has become a bit of my guilty pleasure because I have it fine-tuned to my 2 or 3 topics. And if I get served up more than 4 videos in a row that have nothing to do with what I care about, I shut it down for the day and I'm done.
Good for you.
Because you got to, right? So if you just want to sit and use it like you would watch TV, cool. I'm on board with that. But if you actually want to try and leverage a platform, you have to dedicate yourself to it. And that's one of the biggest things I did last year for me on LinkedIn. Like I've been on LinkedIn forever, right? It's my go-to platform always has. It's everything. It's my CRM, my research tool, my connection tool, everything. And a few years ago when I got into the agency, I started to really try to fine tune what I was doing on LinkedIn. And then last year, I said, you know what, this is stupid. My engagement rate's okay. My content's okay. I'm getting some inbound from it, but not the level I want. I need to take this a little bit more seriously. And so that's where, I've taken 2 courses in the last year on LinkedIn. One super, I don't want to call it light, because it's a pretty solid course for my buddy Sean. But it's geared for those who've never really done content.
Yes.
This is a brand new thing to them. And so it's super light, right?
Yes.
His whole mantra is, you don't need to have a super complicated plan. You don't need to post daily. Just get consistent and post. And he has a lot of good tips around that. So it's a great program for those who are starting. And then I swapped over to a bit of a more heavy hitter in the LinkedIn space, Justin Walsh, and did his course, which is great. And he, as you just said, you've got to be on a schedule. So like I've got content scheduled out to the middle of February right now, because you have to have stuff scheduled. And coming up with topics all the time is tough. I'm very fortunate, I deal with the retail space in CPG. So like I can literally walk through a store, find 6 different things to talk about and create 6 posts out. But it's not, you also want to keep it fresh. You want to be different. I hate repeating the same content over and over. It's why my stuff is never automated. It's never been ghostwritten, because I want my content to be fresh using the latest data, the latest insights. And frankly, it's how I remember all the stuff that I remember is I write it. I create content out of what I'm trying to remember to pass to my clients and my prospects.
Yes.
So for me, it all kind of comes together. But yeah, it's I've seen huge improvement in my engagement rates and my inbound and everything, because I'm taking the platform seriously, and you have to, which is also why I'm hesitant to start going over to like even launching a podcast. I keep going back and forth. I'm like, I have to market that. And if I'm going to market that, that means I have to start activating on at least one other social platform. And which one do I want to go play in? Well, most of my audience is going to be on TikTok or Insta. I have no interest in either. What do I do? So that's one of my goals for this year. Getting back to what we were talking about, one of my goals for this year is to figure out, what do I want to do? How do I want to dedicate my time and my content creation? Do I want to stay true to LinkedIn, stick to my core, keep my availability flexible? Or do I want to bite that bullet and be like, you know what, I'm going to give up X number of hours a week, go hardcore, build out a podcast, create a new channel and platform for myself, and go for it. But that is still under discussion right now.
So I'm glad you brought the goals up, because we're going to get there in the show in a little bit. But this is an awesome conversation right now about content and platforms, because if anybody listening right now, their ears are perked, because there's a lot we're saying right now, which I think creates curiosity for people, and things like, for example, the different networks, like, should I go on Insta? Should I go here? Should I go there? Or should I just play on LinkedIn? Right. Mm-hmm. What you didn't bring up, Jared, was building your own newsletter, like your own community, right? And maybe just it slipped your mind, but it's this. Are we not shifting as an audience from rented audiences to build your own audience? Because I know that's my plan. My plan is using the platforms to build my own audience, my own newsletter list, so that I can monetize that over time and get out of the rented audiences, if you follow me.
Totally. And it's so funny you say that. I literally have a post like scheduled talking about the best platform is the one you own.
Yes.
Literally my opening line.
Yeah,
like,
it is though.
I completely agree with you. So is that part
It's
of my
so
plan?
hard to
100%.
It's so hard to do though.
And that's it. Honestly, I have started that process a couple times. But you know what a piece of my challenge is, to be quite honest with you? I'm all for doing a newsletter. I just scheduled my first LinkedIn Live on my own account for Friday.
Yeah.
And I'm going to use that as a tester, because one of my challenges is I hate repeating content. And what I have discovered from all the amazing content creators I follow on LinkedIn and other platforms, they're creating their own newsletters and things. What they create in their newsletters and everything else is what they're sharing on LinkedIn and everywhere else. It's all consolidated into a single post, into a single newsletter, right?
There's a pillar, and then from the pillar are the seeds, and then
all that wonderful content. Make one thing and create 20. Awesome. I totally agree with that. Here's my challenge. I create the other way around, because I create. So it's part of it's a massive shift in my own content creation that has to change, in that I'm creating my LinkedIn content first and foremost, because that's a business development tool for me. So like whatever you see on LinkedIn is also being sent out to certain prospects, certain clients, whatever. So if I want to do a newsletter, which I've toyed with, I need to figure out what that content's going to be. And I don't want to create net new because that I know I don't have the bandwidth for that. It's so much extra work. So now I'm trying to figure out, how do I purpose my content, or how do I create the right flow where, I've stopped following a couple people who I really respect. The content's awesome, but but I get their newsletter. I'm connected with them on LinkedIn. I follow them on Insta. I'm with them on TikTok. It's the same thing everywhere. I don't need to see you in 4 different spots. And so I don't follow them anywhere except LinkedIn now. Actually, I don't remember if I'm still signed up for the newsletter. It might go to my junk mail, but I know I don't see it. Right. So it's one of those things too. I'm like, oh, I want to make sure that if I'm going to do this, that I have a reason for you to come follow me. That's really clear.
Yes. Yes.
So that if I'm going to put in all this effort, to your point, you want to monetize it somehow, some down the road.
Yes.
And one of my biggest stumbling blocks is figuring out that monetization.
Yes.
On if I'm going to create all this, it has to be monetized.
Yes.
And so it's a combination of me having to shift my creative content creation process, but also what am I going to monetize? And some of it's my own. I don't know that anyone wants to pay for what I create and put out there, and some of it's my own. That's my own ego getting my own way of like.
No,
but like,
if I can interject, you're bang on, because I've chosen the path of, I do this daily show. I commit to doing this daily talk show. Right, every single day I show up at noon, right? But I'm going to tell you why. Because my brand is showing up. I've built a career on showing up. Like, with all respect, you will not. If you're getting to work at 6 o'clock, I'll be there at 5:58. And then Jared's going to show up at 5. Okay, I'm going to fuck. I'm going to be in the parking lot before you, to the point where you're going to say, Bilous, can we fucking sleep till 5 a.m.? Yeah. You win, man. You win. All right, Bilous, you win. You show up more than I do. That's just how I am, right? So I've built a brand that way. When I left my old world, I chose not to go back to it. I didn't want to go there. Didn't want to go back to building the social media world. So I'm basically starting, Jared, a brand new network, I'm starting from scratch. And when I left social 7 years ago, and I'll tell you why, it was messing with my head and it was messing with my kids. I was about to go through divorce and I was seeing what social was doing to me. So I left it and I became a ghost. I left all my followers behind. I'd be sitting here right now. People are like, Bilous, like, you got 1,000 followers? I'm like, yeah, I probably would have had like a million by now if I would have stuck around, because I was in it every single day building a business in the industry, but I left it and I became a ghost. It's come back to bite me in the ass today in 2024. I will be honest. It has, because people look at you, they look at that social proof as who you are. But you know what? I don't care. I got a great family. I don't mind my bank account, and I got a not bad life. So just because I have a few followers around me, that doesn't hurt me. However, I'm looking to build my following, and I'm looking to build my influence and build my audience. And like yourself, I'm creating this content and I'm getting to a point where I'm going, okay, so how am I going to monetize this? Right. And I chose, and I've been dabbling as I'm iterating. Here's the magic with being an entrepreneur. You can iterate with data. So I'm building my Substack newsletter, and I've purposely chose not to call this a podcast, and I'm calling this a SaaS, a show as a service. It's an accountability show. And I'm trying to build this around this idea, Jared, that if you're looking for an accountability partner, that comfortable voice, that comfortable messaging that shows up every single day, well, geez, 6 a.m., Bills is in my inbox. Give me a message I can buy into. Okay, noon, he's popping in my LinkedIn feed. I'm having a shitty day. I'll go tune into him for a couple minutes. Oh, he's bringing me forward. Okay, later on today, I see him again. I like the message he's bringing to me. I'm using some of those old school AM talk radio tricks. I'm using some of those tricks that I grew up with. Okay, well, 11:35 is David Letterman every single night. Okay, 6 o'clock news, 8 o'clock Peter Mansbridge, right? So I'm using some of those old school branding tricks to get in your head. We follow each other on LinkedIn every single day. Bilous pops up at noon on your feed. Regardless if you listen or not, you're like, oh, there's Bilous doing his thing again. So I'm trying to build this around the idea of accountability. And I've noticed, if I can be honest with you, I'll share my kind of behind the kimono here, is I've been studying all of our creators on LinkedIn. When I started doing this, Jared, I blasted a fucking shotgun everywhere. And I was all over the place doing everything really shitty. And I was like, you know what? This is not working really well. I was failing at my YouTube strategy, failing at my Instagram. I was failing at every strategy. I said, you know what? Nope. Going to go right to LinkedIn and stay there for now. Why? Well, LinkedIn's actually still owned by the public. Yeah, it's owned by Microsoft, but it's owned by a board. Ran by a board. Elon's X runs by one person. Insta and Facebook is run by one person. So really, there's kind of one last public social network on the planet, which is LinkedIn. And in my experience, when my boy turns 18 soon, he's going to get a LinkedIn profile. So LinkedIn is probably still the last bastion of human business, personal, professional connectivity that links back to how social has always been, I guess, if I can call it that way. So I decided to build my presence exclusively on LinkedIn, as well as with my Substack newsletter. And I'm playing with things, and I'm playing with, subscribe to my show as a service for a monthly fee. I've been doing a lot of things for free right now, but I'm trying to maybe build this idea that maybe you see value in spending money with me as your accountability partner, as a gateway to maybe one-on-one accountability partner. You follow my line of thinking?
Yeah. I love that. And it's, you've really nailed on something that actually, funnily enough, I also have content coming up on this too. And it, you talk to all the gurus and the experts and all those amazing content people.
Yes.
And you start looking for them for advice. And, there's a single piece of advice that everybody gives, which is niche down and deliver what you know, right?
Yes.
And that's actually horrendous advice for the vast majority of us, myself included, because most of us aren't self-aware enough or don't have a focused skill set, which is what I define myself as a jack of all trades, where when you ask me to come up with, go talk on this, come up with 12 topics, I go, I have no idea. I don't know where to begin. And I love the idea that you're going into what's true to you, what's authentic to you. And I think it's really, I think the focus on accountability and using that as your core, right? Like you're here to kind of show, I'm going to be here for you. I'm going to be here, so you should be here. I love that because so many people require that. I literally had a conversation going on TikTok with a drum and bass vocalist here in Toronto, and she was talking about how she's having such struggles going to the gym. She's just cut out alcohol and cannabis and all the negative stuff. And I'm like, yeah, cool. Here's some tricks to help you go to the gym. Consistency. It's not about going every day. It's about going consistently every other day. Give yourself a break. Make it fun. And most importantly, we want to know the big secret: get yourself an accountability partner or partners, right? Just be like, yo, I'm going to the gym today. You go by yourself. You don't have to be there with you, right? You just need someone to be like, yo, today is this day. Did you do that thing? Yes, amazing, high five, proud of you for sticking with it. And so I love, if you're going to create that platform, not only do I think you'll be wildly successful for it, there's a huge need for it.
Well, that's just it, Jared, because what I've been watching and witnessing, like yourself, we see all of our social gurus telling everybody how to do everything, but that's just it. They're telling everybody how to do everything, but then the helping stops. Yeah. Okay, here's my course. Okay, here's my this. Okay, here's this. You go do it, Jared. Oh, fuck, I don't know how do I start?
Yeah.
Okay, Jared, I'll tell you what, I'll show up tomorrow at 6 a.m. You join me at 6. Let's get started. You'll be there tomorrow. I'll be there, man. What do you want? I want to start a podcast. Awesome. Let's start tomorrow at 6 a.m. I'll join you in the podcast. We'll get started. You know what I mean? So it's having that impetus to say, okay, hey, Keith, I just bought this course from Justin Welsh and I don't know how to go next after I've completed it. Awesome. Let's go together.
Yeah, 100%. And I think there's a double whammy right now. For anyone who's listening, who's thinking about hey, I want to start doing something. I want to start creating my own content, make a name for myself. Anything. I definitely consider this to be true for myself. When I finished Justin's course, whenever you look at trying to create this podcast, what the hell am I going to go talk about, right? What's that niche thing or that unique topic that I can talk? I struggle so hard with that, and it's something I think a lot of people struggle with. I honestly think there would be more entrepreneurs in Canada, which is a massive issue right now. Our entrepreneurship in Canada is declining rapidly, but I think you'd see a lot more people creating and trying to do stuff on their own if there was more support, courses, resources, teaching people to be like, hey, you know what? Because we're all taught in high school, follow your dreams. You just do this thing, go to school. It's all bullshit. Because even in high school, I didn't know what the fuck I wanted to do. Sorry, I don't know if I can swear on this or not.
You absolutely can, 100%.
Awesome. So it's one of those things where we always tell these kids, do what you want. What are you interested in? And honestly, from when I was a kid to today, I still don't know what I want to do, and I don't know it's a problem.
I'm going to challenge you, Jared, because I've been following what Welsh has been saying around this. Every person has $100,000 of knowledge in their head that somebody will pay for. Oh, did I lose you there?
No, you're good.
Oh, there you go. No,
I think the video is just a little laggy.
I think so. Yeah. So I'm a believer that we all have knowledge that somebody will pay for. And I know you've been self-deprecating to yourself saying, I don't know if I have the knowledge in my head or the skills that somebody would pay for. I'm going to sit on the other side of the camera and challenge you that you do. I've battled my own mirror with the same things. I'm like, people are like, yeah, but Keith, you started you've created value from thin air. People want to learn how to do that. Oh, I guess I take it for granted. Just like you took for granted your peanut butter. You have done something a lot of people would love to know how to do. And I know you're like, Keith, but I don't want to recreate content. No, okay, fair. Let's put Jared's issue on the table.
Yeah.
You have knowledge out there, my friend, that people want to learn from, me included, which was, hey, I'd like to go start a CPG. I'm going to call Jared up. So you're just taking it for granted, but you actually have knowledge that somebody is going to pay for over and over and over. Perhaps what the challenge is, if I may offer this, is you don't know where to start on getting that knowledge onto paper. Because that's where I know I've had that challenge, Jared, over the last number of months. I've gotten there now, but I didn't know how to get there. And I'm wondering if that's maybe where you're struggling with is you have a bunch of shit up there. You're taking it for granted because I'd love to get it out of your head. And I'm going, okay, how do I get it out of Jared's head into a piece of paper so we can go sell it?
Yeah. You know what? I appreciate that. And you know what? You're probably very right. It's one of those things where to be honest, this is a lot of my own, I'm a psych background, neuropsychologist, nearly went into clinical psych, but this is a lot of my own psych nonsense in it's becoming my own barrier in that, you know what? I do recognize I know a lot of things across a lot of different topics. And I think that's become my own detriment in that now I don't feel like I'm an expert on any one thing. And it challenges me to do it.
You're going to save a founder a lot of money by sharing with somebody how you and your wife decided to put KPIs and milestones on when to stop, because a lot of people don't know how to stop, right? So just like I had a successful exit. I had a successful earnout period. I know how to maximize an earnout. Somebody said to me last week, said, Bilous, you need to go share that knowledge with somebody. Because somebody who's sold a business that doesn't know what it's going to be like for 3 years while they're in earnout period, I know how to maximize that process. So now I'm going to create some content around that and share it with people. When you told me that, yeah, my wife and I, we created some KPIs and milestones, I'm thinking, well, shit, man, you got to share the knowledge with somebody, because somebody out there is going, well, I don't know if I should stop. Should I go invest another $100,000? You're saying, no, man, don't do it because of this reason, this reason, this reason.
Yeah, true. Thank you for that. It's some excellent food for thought for me as I figure out what the heck I'm doing.
The niching down advice though does get kind of it's sometimes some of it is niche down. So let the niche come to you. I don't know if there's a right answer.
I don't think there is, but I think you really nailed it before that. And Justin talks on this too. Like everyone has a thing in their head that's worth money. I think if as a business idea, there's the number of people who have shit stuck in their heads that would be an incredibly viable concept. Or they could become a strong coach or consultant in whatever they specialize in, but they just can't identify what that one thing is and how to wrap it all up into a pretty bundle and to make it marketable and sellable. I think there's a huge opportunity there because I would sign up for that.
Well, then you know what? Then so okay. Here's the public declaration. I always like to build in the open. So Business Athlete Nation. I'm now going to make an offer to Jared for Jared to join the lab and bring his how to build a CPG brand in 100 days. And he's going to create a course for us. He's going to bring it to the lab because we're creating accountability courses, how to run a marathon, how to climb a mountain, because I believe you can do anything in 100 days. And I got this 100-day program I put together. So Jared's going to put together a program for us called How to Build a CPG Brand in 100 Days. And after 100 days, you're going to know if you're going to keep going or you're going to stop. Right. So that's what we are going to help Jared build that course so that Jared can get that knowledge out of his head and he can go monetize his brain and continue being a wonderful father for his children. How's that for you, Mr. Kligerman?
I appreciate that a lot. Could I build that out? I don't know. You know what? Let me take a stab at that, man. I'm one who I'm always game to take a stab, and if it falls short, that's cool because you learned along the way. So let me see what I can do with that for sure.
So let me ask you this then. You must be using GPT and all the wonderful large language models in your world.
Not as much as you'd think.
Really?
Yeah. Here's my issue with ChatGPT.
Okay.
From my content in particular.
Okay.
I pride myself on sharing the latest, the greatest with the most recent stats and data.
Okay.
And the result of that is that ChatGPT can't provide that for me.
Yes.
And that's a real challenge. So where I've dabbled with ChatGPT a little bit, because I do play with it. Not to say that we don't play with it and I'm not using it. I do. It's just not a big thing for me. Where I use it for a little bit of image creation. Because there's lots of stuff I want that isn't available in public domain. I'll use it to rewrite some of what I've done to be able to repurpose it in a slightly different tone or a slightly different voice. But I don't do it a ton, again, because even the topics I talk about frequently, so top of my head right now, whatever I happen to talk about a lot, merchandise, look at your package standing out on shelf. Why not? I talk about that all the time. It's a topic where I want to show off what's just come to market and why it's good or why it's not. So repurposing that becomes really tricky because I still need a new example. And so by the time I find that new example, I already have the whole post written in my head. I'm just going to write them. So I play with AI a little bit. I haven't found where it sinks into how I create.
Got it. Yeah. All right, there you go. Okay. Your voice is just catching up to the audio. Because I wonder if using the knowledge in your brain about your experiences building Wander Peanut Butter. By the way, I have an issue. I have a thing with peanut butter, right? I have a jar of peanut butter on my desk that's taped up. Because if you would have tuned into the show in November, and I don't expect you would have, but November to me is no month where you pick something and say no to it. And I chose on November 1st to say no to peanut butter because it goes with everything that I eat. And I mean everything, whether it's cauliflower or broccoli or chicken or bread or chocolate. Peanut butter is the best food ever created. So, and it causes problems for me. It puts weight on my body. It makes me sluggish. It interrupts my morning coffee routine. So I decided in November to not eat peanut butter. So when I knew that you made peanut butter, I was like, oh, I got to go talk to Jared about peanut butter. But here's my point. I got to think you could take the knowledge from your head, take the knowledge from GPT, and go create your Chat GPT, Jared Kligerman, how to build a brand course. Relatively straightforward. I don't know. Just thinking on it.
Yeah, no. I think you're right. I do. No matter what I end up doing in terms of building in my brand, I definitely foresee the use of AI and Chat GPT in some capacity.
Yeah.
Just because it's a necessity these days. Like
Yes.
The demands for content and the demand for things is just so high. It's becoming almost impossible for a single person to try and do it all on their own. So you're either going to use AI or you're going to ask a third party, some freelancer, to design something for you to help edit it or to do the audio production or whatever that thing is. And I'm a big fan of keeping money in my own pocket. So ChatGPT is a pretty good, given that I pay for the premium there anyways.
Yeah.
It's a pretty good platform for it. So yeah, it's something I definitely need to play around with more for sure.
I'll tell you though, and I certainly agree with your comment around doing content your way. A number of months ago, as the world was moving to creating more content with GPT, I just kept creating more content with myself as a human, because I think the human content still stands out more so than the GPT generated content. And I think it's starting to even stand out even more when you start seeing it on our social feeds, isn't it?
Big time. You can absolutely tell when something is written by ChatGPT. And I would say that ChatGPT is as good a copywriter as the most junior copywriter in your age.
Oh, smart.
And by that I mean junior copywriters don't understand storytelling. I'm going to make some very big generalizations here, but when you're fresh out of school, you're just getting into it, you don't really understand how to tell stories properly, unless you grew up like working on like being your own influencer. Most people don't come out naturally knowing how to storytell. They don't know how to create a piece of content for a product that isn't just buy me now. This takes a lot of finesse. It takes a lot of experience to understand what's the story I can wrap around this product, and how do I sum that up into 3-sentence catchy, eye scroll stopper line with a strong CTA, a call to action, to get that consumer to come and buy it. Like, it just takes a lot to do it. And I find, and when I review content created by junior, it often has all the same flaws or shortcomings, not necessarily flaws, but like shortcomings that what I get created in ChatGPT creates, right? So my studio, we never use it to create client content because copyright issues. That's another big piece. Anyone doing like creation, there's still some big red lights around copyright issues and who owns what, and is it really yours? And like, so we don't use it for client work, but we'll use it sometime when we need to draft something. We'll throw in a bunch of keywords, a few key parameters, say, hey, draft something. And then we'll take that draft and then we'll go through and really tweak the hell out of it. And a lot of it's adding emotion, personalization. And not personalization from like, hey Keith, what's going on? No, more like, here's the emotion from our founder when they did this thing. It's those little personal touches that AI is getting a lot better at, and will continue to get better at as it gets fed more content. And if you create your own, this is what I am kind of toying with it right now, to create your own AI where you've fed it all your own content, so it knows how to write in your vernacular and is able to encompass all of that. Well, then I think AI can be super powerful, and we're slowly getting there. But I'm also very happy to, as I think every content creator in the world is, we all look at it and go like, yeah, no, there's still a big room for us humans inside the world of content creation, whether that's written, photography, animation, etc.
Well, it's interesting because I love photography. I pride myself on being a pretty good photographer, actually, and I'm finding myself using less and less AI generated photography because all my feeds are full of it, and using my own old school photography, and it's standing out because people are like, hey, I haven't seen something like that for a while, because we're being so conditioned to seeing all this artificially created stuff. Do you know what I'm saying?
Totally agree with you. And you know what? I think it's I'm going to speak very anecdotally because I don't have sources for this data, but
Yeah.
Through the pandemic, everyone went really hard onto social, right? Because what choice did we have? We didn't have anyone else to go and connect with people and do stuff. And in the last 2 years, the swing away from screen has been so noticeable. You talk to marketers now, and they we're still doing digital, we're still doing social, but we're talking about experiential a hell of a lot more now. We're talking about pop-ups. We're talking about how do we, if we're not going to create a big pop-up, come do this thing with us experience, how do we create experiences for consumers to do themselves at home? How do we get them part of this thing? And all that goes back to, I think, as excited as everyone is about AI, because of the pandemic, and it's all going so hard into tech and realizing how bad it is for us and how addictive it is and how brutal it is for mental health and all these other things, we're all scaling back away from that. I think that's going to start happening with AI created assets, AI created content and all of that, because ultimately we don't want to hear, we want to talk to another person. And so I think moving forward, the brands who are winning right now, every single one of them, they're not winning because they have the best AI created content or anything like that. It's because the founders are front and center. It's because they're out there engaging with consumers one-on-one in real life, building in real life, meeting in real life. And so I think, AI is definitely going to become a bigger part of business, bigger part of marketing, bigger part of creative, but I don't think it's going to ever dwarf out the ROI and full impact of being able to create one-on-one experiences and have that human-to-human interaction. I don't see it happen.
In some ways, we're going back to analog a little bit, aren't we, Jared?
You know what? Very much so. So in a previous, I was going to say previous life, that's not right. But before coming into agency, I was in management consulting. And one of the things you talked about just way more than I ever cared to talk about ever again was generational differences in conflict, which, to be very clear, I don't believe in at all. Generations are a horrible way to discuss. But one of the things, this is going back a decade. One of the things that we were trying to flag as trending before I left almost a decade ago, was that the Gen Zs, or Gen Zs for our Americans, the youngest generation,
Yes.
they were looking at all of their older siblings and cousins and seeing us all get so caught up with Instagram and Facebook and all this social stuff. And a lot of them started to go, okay, we see this technology. We see the advantages it brings in allowing us to connect with people, but I don't want to live on this thing. This is a communication tool, just like text message. And so it's kind of neat. This is when I was leaving, and I've seen it kind of continue. When you talk to younger generations about how they use social and how they use technology, it's not the same way that you and I use it. I remember, so I'm the oldest of four. My youngest sister's 10 years right? So we got some generational differences there for sure. And I was using Facebook to keep in touch with my undergrad buddies. Meanwhile, she's using Facebook to connect with, so she's a social worker now, but she's using it to connect with aid agencies based in Africa to talk to their outreach department, to learn about how they work with the NGOs there. Like, what the hell? I wasn't even thinking about those types of things when I was her age, right? And I think that's what's so cool about watching things evolve, is that all these we grew up with the birth of all this technology. They're growing up with this technology in the same way that we grew up with computers, and our parents were there for the birth of computers. The way we use it and our comfort with it and the value we're able to create out of it is so radically different. And it's really exciting to see. And you look at the younger generation using AI and things like that, and I think they're the ones to look at to see how AI is going to play out long term. And they're using it for exactly what we were just talking about. They're using it for inspiration. They're using it to provide a baseline, to give them a starting point, in the same way that you and I might go to Amazon to start our product search, or to Google to find something out. Right. They're going to AI, right? It's just an evolution. It's really cool to see, but I do see the younger generation drifting further and further away from tech, and more, or moving further away from immersive technology, in that I'm going to live on social, to I'm going to use my social or my Discord to engage for a short time with these friends, but then I'm going to go and have a drink with them afterwards, and then we're going to go and do this other thing over there, and it's become a small, tiny little piece of the social network. Whereas for our generation, I would say it's a much larger, changing a bit, but it was a much larger.
Well, and it's hard not to see that future, Jared, when you look at, now I'm going to weave the future into this, but it's hard not to see an analog future when you look at what Apple's releasing this week, which is the Apple Vision Pro. And let me explain. At the end of the day, glasses are just analog.
100%.
But when you put technology in glasses, you can create magic with experiences.
Yes.
Right. So when you think about an analog pair of glasses, turn them on, put a human being into an experience, all of a sudden the technology fades away. Right. There's now not this in front of you and I. Right. So it's easy for me to seek. I consider myself a futurist nerd. I love reading about this stuff all the time. As a matter of fact, I'm telling everybody right now, if you have an iPhone 15, turn the spatial video knob on your phone, because you'll thank me in about 3 or 4 years from now when you end up having your own headset and you're going, oh yeah, I shot video of my kid's birthday when he was 2 and Uncle Keith told me to turn spatial video on. Now I'm enjoying it in my headset, because by then it's not going to be a headset. It's going to be a small pair of glasses. But my point is, that's analog, and it's experience, and technology fades away over time. I really believe that that's going to happen, and tech's going to be more, AI is going to enable us to not get rid of, but see less of screens and have agents and workflow happening around us so that it can enable results.
Fully agree. And I think that example of the glasses is an excellent one, because I've long said, like, VR is awesome. Like, let's talk futuristic. Like, AR, VR has been hot for like a decade. It's been top topic everywhere. And I've always been very meh on VR. Still makes a lot of people sick. Still some cost barriers to get into it. But VR experiences where you can go and play a full, like, let's run through this spaceship and kill all the aliens with VR. Amazing. What a cool experience that is, right? Mixed reality. Let's be able to blend this. When I'm working as a technician, working on an engine for the first time, my headset will tell me, don't touch that red knob. You're about to touch the battery and kill yourself, you moron. Like, amazing. And from that same extension, I think AI, the power of AI is it removes the monotonous tasks that humans have done that they don't, right? Like law. I look at all the old school things, but like law is a big one, and a lot is being done in law right now, and they're being very careful because law. But being able to turn to AI to be able to pull up, hey, in the last decade, I need every case talking about this type of topic and the outcomes so I can have, precedent. Normally, you have some articling student spending hours digging through all these books trying to find all this stuff. Or not all databases, but like they're trying to find it all. You can just have an AI and be like, hey, find this. And in 3 seconds, it's all there, all laid out for you. And what that allows, whether it's there or you're working on a production line or you're entering data into a spreadsheet, which thankfully most of those jobs are already gone. But any of those, what that allows you to do is it frees that person up to still have that role overseeing the data entry, over making sure the AI is working properly, but allows them to have more human interactions in their job. It means that they have more freedom and time to go and have conversations with other people in the organization, with clients, with everything else they can do. And that's where I see tech in general. That's the advantage of tech. It frees up more time for human interaction.
So as a father, and you as a father with children, this is where I'm struggling with the value of school tomorrow for kids. And let me weave it back to you and your knowledge in your head. So we have traditionally been raised to go to school to get knowledge. Go to Harvard, best knowledge on the planet. All the smartest brains are at Harvard or at Yale, whatever, right? There's where the knowledge is. But now that's not necessarily the case. Knowledge is a commodity. Knowledge is all around us. We have just more knowledge around us. Like your 8-year doctorate's degree, well, I can go get it from my GPT and my phone. But what I don't have is your experience of trying to launch your peanut butter. So if my son comes to me one day and says, hey, Dad, I don't want to go to school, but I got this. I want to launch this peanut butter that I know is awesome. Okay. Well, hey, guess what? There's this course being sold by Jared Kligerman. You can go find it on LinkedIn that'll teach you how to do it. Let's save the $100,000 from not going to Harvard. Let's spend the $20,000 on buying the course and getting Jared's support. Like, it's hard for me not to think that's the future of education.
Yeah. I've been talking, because I come from management consulting background. It's a topic we talked about a lot. And, I have multiple degrees. I got 2 bachelors and an MBA. Like I am one of the more educated people I know. Better or for worse, 7 years of schooling. And, at the same time, I'll also say I was homeschooled for all my elementary. I only went into the public system for high school. And even then, it was an advanced education program, International Baccalaureate, if you're familiar, but it's like an AP for those in the US. And I have long said because I still get asked by lots of people, should I go do my MBA? Like
Yeah.
MBA is a big one I get asked with right now. And my quick answer to everyone is why? Not in a negative, but like, what's your objective to go to do your MBA? Or to go to university or any higher education? Because I do think,
Yes.
like elementary, you know what? Like trying to teach my daughter math, I'd rather bang my head against the wall, right? Like this is not my forte. My daughter's in French immersion, so she's learning French. I don't speak the language. I kind of understand it. I can read it, but like I'm not fluent. So there's a lot of value, I think, within elementary, because that's the foundational stuff. High school depends on where you are, because once you start getting to high school is when you start to specialize. And my challenge with a lot of high school, hard stop, not some high school, all high school, is exactly what you just said. They're just teaching the text. My biggest complaint of education through my entire educational history is I don't need a teacher to teach me a textbook. I can read. So what are you bringing to this class that I can't learn from this textbook? And the best professors I've ever had
We're just booting up the internet coming over from Ontario here. Jared's just taking some time to reboot it up there. It's sometimes we have cross border. Not only do we have challenges with some guests in the US, we have cross border challenges with the internet from time to time. Go ahead, my friend.
Yeah, all good. It's like when I look at the best professors I had in my undergrad. And one of the reasons that I still do, if I'm going to recommend an MBA school, I do still recommend mine at Schulich, little plug, is because those profs are full-time industry professionals. Teaching is a second. And what that brings is, yes, you're going to learn the 4 P's and 4 C's of marketing. Awesome. But they're also going to say, here's the product that I worked on, and here's how we applied it, and here's where it went wrong, and here's the outcomes of both. And you don't get that from a textbook. You don't get that from a teacher who's only ever learned from a curriculum and from textbook. You need that learned experience. So, looking into the future, like, so for my daughter, if she decides that she wants to go to university, cool. I don't think she will, but if she does, awesome. I'm going to be pushing for her to look at trades. I'm going to be pushing her to look at college. I'm going to be pushing her to go and pursue, if she finds herself really loving some part-time job she starts during high school to have some extra cash in hand, she wants to keep doing that, do it. I'm going to give a huge shout out to my dad here, actually. Who's an entrepreneur. I take a lot of my own approach to life and business from him and my mom, not to dismiss her either. Both of them are huge entrepreneurs, huge influences on me. But the one thing that they both said throughout my entire life was, do whatever you want to do for a career in business, as long as it makes you happy, do it, right? Mm-hmm. And I think that really holds true, and I'm sure you have the same feeling for your kids as I do for mine, which is, as long as you're happy doing what you're doing, you're living the life that you want to be living, I legitimately don't care what it is you're doing. You could be, picking up garbage, you could be selling software, you could have an OnlyFans account. Maybe not that one so much. I may have some challenges there, but like, honestly, at the end of the day, if you're successful, you're learning, you're happy, you're not hurting yourself or anyone else, awesome. And so much of what you can learn, especially when it comes to entrepreneurship, you don't need to go for school for. And frankly, most schools don't teach. You only learn it from doing it. It's a big reason I launched my own company. I learned more from my 3 years of running my business than I ever did for my MBA in regards to my CPG. Did I learn a lot from my MBA that allowed me to jumpstart my CPG? Oh, hell yeah, because I already understood basic finance, basic accounting, basic operations, basic supply chain. So that helped. So my big takeaway for education, at least as it is now, is, having the education help. It accelerates things. The biggest thing and the biggest advantage you get from going through a higher education isn't what you learn. It's the people, the network.
Yeah.
My entire career is thanks to really 2 people I met in my first week of my MBA. Entire career.
No kidding.
That. Yeah, 100%. So my management consultants gig, I was at 7 years. I got, thanks to one of my very first professors who I clicked with right away. I took 3 classes with him in a row across 3 different terms. And so summer was coming up, I'm like, hey, Steven, like, I'm trying to find something in this learning development, training, management consulting space. I can't seem to find anything. If you happen to know anyone, I'm not asking for like open the door and like push me in, just point me in the direction.
Yes.
And he did. And what I didn't realize at the time was, by him even pointing me in the direction, he basically got me the job. Didn't know that. And nor was that what I was expecting. But I went and interviewed, did my thing, and got the job. It was thanks to him. And then at the agency, so I'm a co-owner of the agency, minority owner. The majority owner is one of my best friends, who I literally met on my very first day of orientation of my MBA, walking into the back of the auditorium. You can't tell because I'm sitting down. I'm a very tall dude at 6'8". My very good friend and owner of the think tank, Mike, I think he's 6'6", 6'5", like no shrimp either. And we literally had a tall guy moment of we caught each other's eyes over the back of everyone's heads and kind of drifted towards each other. And it just turned out he lived one subway stop away from where I did in downtown Toronto. And we ended up hanging out a whole bunch of other weird similarities and crossover past and our childhoods. It was crazy, but that's how I got into aging. So I always have people ask me, like, how can I do what you did? I'm like, you can't. My entire career is thanks to relationships and networking. And, not to say it's not, I've worked for everything I've gotten. Of course, you have to have skills to be able to land things.
Yes.
But it's also being very lucky and being open to opportunities, but it's a lot of network. And that's why you do an MBA. That's why you go to school. It's why it's the biggest reason. So when people come to me like, should I do an MBA? My quick answer to them is, if you're doing it just for the letters after your name, don't bother. What a waste of money. If you really want those letters after your name, what's the real skill set you're trying to develop? Finance, marketing, supply?
Yeah.
Guess what? There's a master's for all of those, and there are one-year courses or programs of 2, fraction of the cost. Not only will you refine your skill set into the gaps you have, you're going to have a degree that very few people have, so you'll stand out and you'll be different. And in the hiring market today, with the huge number of people who are trying to get hired, being different helps you stand out and hire. Makes so much more sense. But if you're just going for letters and there's no skill that you're trying to develop, well, in that case, don't bother going to school. I'll introduce you to 3 different events that happen in Toronto on a monthly basis. Just attend it for 3 months straight, and you'll have just as big a network. And you'll meet all the people, and you'll learn all the stuff you need to learn.
Yeah, that's one thing.
There's only a ton of there.
That's one thing. Jared has been really powerful for my networking. Has been doing this daily show. Has been the ability to network with new people every single day. Building content with other people. It's been a wonderful learning experience using LinkedIn for that alone.
For sure. It's I do a very similar thing, so I don't have the wonderful video come tune in to see me every day, but I do make a point, like I post daily, obviously, but I also try to make a point every day to reach out to 4 or 5 new people who are doing something in and around what I'm doing, or doing something cool and interesting, even if I can't help them out, just to be like, yo, saw this thing, that looks neat, let's connect.
Staying on the radar.
Not that I'm always that good about, not that I'm always that good about adding notes. Should probably be better about that. But if you're close enough, like if you're in marketing, you're retail, you look at my profile, you know why I want to connect, because we talk about the same stuff. Duh. It's when you're doing something cool with AI and sustainability and agriculture, then I'll put a little note, be like, oh, this is all really cool stuff. I want to learn more about what you're doing with this and that. If you got time, yeah. But no, you have to. You always have to be building your network, reaching out to those you're connected with. Maintaining relationships. It's the biggest piece of networking that I think people overlook, and I work so hard at being better at it. And it's really the main. People are very quick to go to networking meetings, get cards, send that first email, maybe send a second one to reach out a couple months later. And that's usually about it for most people.
Yes. Yeah.
Right. And then it's also one of those things where, because my function is sales, you can't just reach out and be like, yo, what's going on? How are you? Because what do you want? What's the thing? And so, and to be honest, most of us don't have time. People reach out to me all the time, like, yo, what's going on? I'm like, dude, I don't have time for this casual conversation. What do you want? Oh, just touching base. Cool. Nice. Doing great. Talk to you soon. And I get this sometimes too. And I get it. There's no harm, no foul. I'm totally okay with it. But it's why, going back to content creation, maybe this is where I could use AI a little bit more, is creating all these personalized messages for everyone. So hey, you're working on this yogurt brand. Let me send you a little message about something going on with dairy that you don't know about. Or, hey, here's what's going on with granola that might be cool for you to leverage in a future campaign, right? How do you find those little value adds, that little bits of interest for that person? And if you're really good at this, the best networkers that I've met are the ones who remember all the personal details as well as the professional. That's why notes on LinkedIn are a handy little feature, just so you can kind of remember some of those little things, like the names of kids or ages. And honestly, I'm horrible at that. I'm awful with names. I'm awful with personal details usually. Which is why
Jared,
I'm trying to be better with notes. But
I'm watching people, I'm observing, so I can learn. You're good, dude. I watch it, so and I'll tell you why I think you're good, because it's very clear to me what you're good at. I see your content. You're a CPG guy. You're always offering advice. You're always offering, and I love it, because I'm like, this guy is dialed into his niche. So again, you take it for granted because you just do it every single day, as you breathe air. But as an observer and watching your comments and the content you post, you clearly are an expert in that, and it shows. My 2 cents anyway.
I really appreciate that, man. That means a ton, honestly, because one of the things, and I'm sure you feel this all the time too, as a heavy content creator, is that you put out so much content, and I put out so much content, and you get the occasional oh, that's a really good thing, or get these little comments here and there on stuff. Yeah. But I honestly, I always wonder this. I use Shield Analytics, so I look at all this stuff too. And I'm like, oh, I'm getting better. But I still wonder, like, is my stuff good? Do people care? Do people like what I'm putting out there? I'm like, okay, I'm seeing growth. Like, they must be doing well. Like, it must be okay. But like, am I doing good? And so, like, I really appreciate, you calling me out for it, because it's nice to hear that, like, I'm actually doing a good job of what I do.
But I'm offering that to you because we're both playing the same game. That's why I said That's why I said a while ago that if you're just going to dabble in LinkedIn, go spend time with your family. Like, if you're really going to get in here, you got to get in here, and then you got to observe and learn. And I've been observing and learning, and you were one of my observers and learners, right? So I'm observing and learning, and I know what your goal has been. Your goal is to be an expert thought leader in a CPG, and it's clear to me that that's working for you. So again, to get feedback on, is it working? From my point of view, it is. So there you go. There's your 4 cents.
Love it. Appreciate that. This entire conversation is now worth it. Thanks for that one. No, just kidding. That's huge. Thanks, man. That made my day. I needed a little bit of positivity. It's been a whole bunch of stuff going on behind the scenes that's chaotic for me for the last 2 months, and this last 2 days in particular. So yeah. Unfortunately, I can't share any of it due to NDAs and all sorts of stuff. But
yeah, I get it.
Rough 48 hours for sure. So hearing that's really flipped my day around. Thank you.
Good. Well, and any little bit of juice I can offer to my guests to get them through is really what we're here to do. So, but listen, before we wrap up, because you've been really grateful with your time, we've been chatting here for 65 old minutes. What got us here, Mr. Kligerman, was goals and goal setting, and maybe talking about them publicly. If you'd be open to it, I'd love to talk about your goals, and maybe we get them on the old record like we are right now, and we come and visit them back a little bit later this year and say how they're going, and without pressure, full grace. And what I mean by that is that, hey, let's put them out there. We come back and revisit them and see how they're going, because I think there's some value in that. What do you think?
Yeah, absolutely. I think actually what kind of kicked this whole thing off is I think I did a goal post on LinkedIn a while back, and like my big 3 for the year, right?
Yes, you did. That's exactly.
Yeah, 100%. And so, my goals for this year, there's a few. On a personal front, I really want to figure out my personal brand, right? And so that's going to be everything from the podcast. Do I do a podcast? Do I start doing a daily video? Do I do a Substack newsletter? Like, what am I going to do? How am I going to create that? That's a big objective for me this year, is figuring what the hell that's going to be. I'm on it. I'm figuring it out. But I'd like to have that figured out by the end of the year. I'm turning 40 this year, so it's kind of I'm at that point of life where I've floated and skirted and kind of managed to weave my way through stuff without too much direction and done okay. And now I'm like, I should probably figure out what the heck it is I do, and make sure I'm stable for my next 20 years of my career, so I can retire and have a good life afterwards. So that's a big one. Figuring out my personal brand and what I'm doing with that. So that has all sorts of sub goals around LinkedIn content and other social platforms. A big goal for me is I want to get more into content creation, not just for myself, but for others. Whether that's monetized or not, I don't care. But it's one of those things where, like yourself, I also have, I don't consider myself an amazing photographer, but I like to dabble in photography for sure, in video and content, all that stuff. So I'd like to get better at that, and the best way to get better is to do it. So I also have a nice new kitchen in my house that I like to show off, and so trying to do some cooking videos and stuff I think would be fun. So that's a big objective for me, is I'd like to really start getting my content regular on my personal channels. I don't count LinkedIn as a personal channel because it's a business one. So on an Insta, on my TikTok, actually make them into something. On a business front, the agency has all sorts of stuff on the go right now. Growing the agency this year is a big one for me. It's, so we specialize in omni-channel, which really just means that we're creating campaigns that are going to live on multiple channels simultaneously. The challenge that comes with that is that those are typically paid channels, which means the cost of our programs is very high. And it's not me who's the highest cost. I pitched on a $2.1 million program, and our billables didn't even break 6 figures. Just put this into perspective, right? It's a wild range in cost for media and printing and pricing and everything else. So coming through the last 4 years of pandemic, where people didn't need to market products as much because everyone was just buying, people couldn't keep stuff on shelf, right? Brands were just watching stuff fly off shelves. So now inflation coming through, and now consumers being really wary with their budgets, but also manufacturers and brands having to eat these additional input costs, and marketing dollars has been really hard to come by. So this year, I've got a few different strategies on the works right now to try and build out more business. So that's a huge objective for me this year. I'd like to land between 3 and 6 projects. Whether that's from one client to 6 clients doesn't make a difference, but the total sum of that, I'd like it to be between 300,000 and 600,000 in new business, which is not. It's not impossible. One big, if a Canadian brand is listening and they're a big one, they want to do a national back to school campaign. Those types of campaigns run in the low 6 figures. So, it doesn't take much. The challenge is trying to find those opportunities and get in front of the right people, which is why I'm trying to jump into going back to my first one, get on more podcasts, create more things, be in more places so that I can, those marketers who don't know where to go or might be going to LinkedIn or their Insta or TikTok to say, hey, I need help with packaging, with POP, with, how do I get more traffic going to Amazon? Not Amazon itself. I do not touch Amazon. That is a beast I do not play with. But like all the other stuff around it, I want to be the first name. Like if you go to Google and type in shopper marketing Toronto, I want my name to be the first thing that pops up. Same thing for TikTok, same thing for Insta. So that's a big objective for me this year, really working on that. And then one final personal objective, just so we can round out with 3, because I like 3s and 5s and 0s. My big third one, funny man, funny. I find lots of people who share our mindset and personality and approach all kind of have our same quirk. Drawing to 3s, 0s, and 5s is one of them.
Yes.
So my third one, on a personal note, I have let my own personal health take a back years. Not that I'm not active. I play hockey once a week. I do lots of stuff. We eat very healthy. We're flexitarians, all that stuff. But I'm turning 40 this year. My body's not recovering the way it used to, and I'm starting to feel it, right? My daughter's 5. Like wanting to run around and play with her. I'm not having challenges with any of that yet, right? My body's good, but my lower back is kind of feel tweak once in a while. And I'm looking at some of my friends, like who got 7 to 10 years on me, and I'm seeing some of the physical challenges they're having. I'm like, oh, I want to avoid that. So very, very fortuitously, my wife has the same objective as I do. So she's a gym person. So she's found a new gym. She's going 3 days, Tuesdays, Thursdays, and Saturdays, 3 days a week for that. To the gym. She's doing morning walks some days she's not. So she's kind of found herself a rhythm. And so now I'm finding my own rhythm as well. So I'm also trying to have a big goal for the both of us here to be healthier, more active. So for myself, I'm not a gym person. I do play hockey once a week. But my new fitness routine is a trio, again, 3s. So one, flexibility, stretching, have to. 6'8", dude, I'm a big white guy who moves around a lot. Like I am tight. Like there are pieces of wood that have more flexibility than me, man. It is bad.
Fucking
right?
walking.
So that's
walking tree.
Yeah. So lots of yoga, stretching. As an extension of that, there's I have some weights and some like loose stuff like around the house I can use for my own fitness. And I found this guy on TikTok, of course, does these really cool movement exercises that are totally my jam, where you're just kind of like moving your body around and just like, that's why I love sports. I need that team dynamic to keep me moving. And this kind of does the same thing because it's an extension of stretching, just making it all active. So it's great. So I just started that. So that's the second piece to it. And then my third piece is so dumb. This is so bizarre. So I'm a big... hang on now. So I've mentioned a couple things so far that like I'm the oldest of 4 kids and, big white guy with very stiff. I like music a lot. I play a lot of music. I listen to a lot of music. My siblings were all dance. I was, for the reasons I just mentioned, big dude, very stiff. In the last decade, thanks mostly to Mike, my best friend and business buddy, co-owner. He introduced me to drum and bass, which I kind of listened to without realizing what it was. For those who do, it's a part of electronic dance music, it's like techno and trance with faster beats per minute and a better flow that aligns much more to how classic rock and classical music is built and structured than techno or hip hop or pop. And I listened to a lot of rock when I was younger, alt rock in particular, and punk. So I fell into it. So like when you dance around to rock music, you're mostly just jumping. That's easy. Then you go to listen to a drum and bass artist and people are dancing, either a shuffle dance or shuffling, or like there's a drum and bass, like 2-step, like a certain flow that goes with it. And I was just at a concert back in December on the 29th. And with Mike, and it was a great time. And I kept he's an amazing dancer. And I was just watching, like, man, I want to be able to, I'm not going to be able to be as good as him, but I want to be able to at least move better. And I have been dabbling around a little bit for like the last years, trying to get more comfortable with moving my body in ways that aren't natural, right? Like, they're
Yeah.
not, dancing is a unique way of moving. Like when you start to, especially when you start doing shuffle or swing, any of these types of dance, you move your body in a way that's so unnatural that when you start, like, oh, that's weird. It's like when you start skipping. Like, I don't know when the last time you skipped was. Okay. I can tell you, if you go and try and skip for the first time right now, and it's been years since you last did that, it's going to take you a second. And that first hop, you're going to be like, oh, that's weird. That's not right. So that's my experience right now. As I'm slowly trying to teach myself how to dance to drum and bass, and my daughter's totally on board. She loves it. My wife, says she's very proud of me for trying it because she says I look absolutely ridiculous, and she's totally right. I look completely dumb, but it's awesome, and I love it. And so that's my third one, is trying to figure out how the hell to dance this fast-paced music that puts me in a great mood, gets my positivity flowing, and so that's those two things I'm all trying to do first thing in the morning too. Because I'm an early bird and a night owl, but early bird works better for me when it comes to exercise. So trying to carve all that in. But that's it. Those are my goals, my objectives, what I'm trying to do.
So thank you for sharing that, Mr. Kligerman. Jared, that's awesome. I love your energy. I love your and I love your vulnerability, and I love your willingness to share. Not many people share as much as you have been willing to do so, and I'm really grateful for that. And so we've got a recorder. We'll revisit them a little bit later this year. We'll see how things are going, and maybe a couple times this year we'll come back and have chat. But if I may offer something to you, my friend, and I want to say this very sincerely to you. You have all the tools in your toolbox. I'm just wondering if you maybe just need like an accountability friend in your corner to help you get there. Let me tell you what I heard in the last hour. You have some extensive knowledge in your head that you just don't know how to get out, that people will pay for. You want to build a personal brand. Well, you're already in the industry, and I already see what your brand is. Like Jared's a CPG guy. And I see all the stuff he spits out. He's into facts. He's into stats. He's into being correct. He knows about being committed. He's very committed. So that's not a question. He always gives me stuff that I believe in. So I see what his brand is. So you told me your goal was to build a personal brand. Well, you're already building it in front of me. You're building it in front of the audience. I just don't think you know it because you don't see it because you're doing it all the time. But I'm telling you that goal is already happening in front of you. Just keep doing it, pal. And I'll tell you something else too. You're 40. Okay. Well, you started a peanut butter company and you failed at it. Sorry, I'll call it out. You failed at it. But you learned in that experience of what it was going to cost to put the milestones down, the KPIs down, and where you were going to pull the lever to stop. All that is awesome learning. So now for the next 10 years of your life till you're 50, there's a lot of 30 to 40-year-olds out there in that 10 years going, I want to start a peanut butter company. I want to start a jam company. I want to start a chips company. I don't know where to go. Oh, hey, there's this Jared Kligerman guy that's done it before. Jared, dude, man, you have this stuff up here. You already have the energy and the will. And if I can offer one last thing, I'm a big believer in the Business Athlete Performance Lab that every single day you start your day with your non-negotiable, which is your own mirror. So if you can just get, and I'll use the metaphor of the gym. So I believe in going to the gym. Now, everybody thinks going to the gym is about squatting 500 pounds and lifting weights. No, to me, the gym's a metaphor for getting yourself taken care of, whether that's mentally, physically, mobility, but you got to do all those things. I believe in picking heavy things up and setting them down. I love happy baby. I'm a big fan of yoga and stretching. But if I can encourage you to find a way to get into that habit every single day of starting your day with taking care of yourself, and then just reminding yourself what Uncle Keith's telling you, man, you got this knowledge in your head. You just need to have somebody kick you in the rear end to get it out of you, because your personal brand is already there and it's already working for you. And it's going to help build the agency, because over the next few years, this agency is going to go, okay, well, we have the CPG guy here who knows how to do this, and his name's Jared Kligerman, and let's just keep leaning on him. So I don't know. I'm just telling you what I heard, what you said to me. So I'm playing it back to you to give you a little bit of encouragement as we say goodbye here today.
You know what? I really appreciate that. Really grateful for it too, because I think you're really right. You know, I've actually said a couple times in the last week or so that, you know, what I'm missing right now is a swift kick in the ass. This conversation has kind of served to be the wind up for that, to come down and kick me in my butt once we get off this. It's going to be the swing through as I write down all the things I want to go act on and list out and put timelines to hold myself accountable to myself. I feel like I'm saying I'm going to do this stuff. So let's do it, man. Let's put it down. Let's make it happen.
Yeah. Because you know you can. I know it's hard. Listen, I know it's hard. It's not easy. You know, you got family, you got kids, you're pulled in 1,000 directions. You just told me the last 48 hours have been mental, and I can't imagine, right? Again, a little trick for me, tricks and trade for me. I like to think in 10-day blocks. And if I'm successful 90% of the time, I'm more than likely going to be successful 100% of the time. Why do I know that? Because when you run a marathon, when you train for it, you never train to run the full marathon before you run it. Because when you're running it, you go, yeah, well, I know I can do the last 10 miles. So if you go hard for 90% of the time, give yourself a chance to fail out of 1 out of 10 days, you're going to complete those 10 days over and over and over, and you're always going to win. Right.
Yeah,
So
I love that. That's a great idea. Like I like that. You know, it's a short enough time frame where, you know, you can do stuff and then check in before you, but short enough that you can't go so far down the line that you've, you know, wasted tons of time on it, right? Like it's a nice distance, enough time to get stuff done.
I put together a training program of 100 days, and I did it in 10-day blocks. What I learned about that experience was, because I think as we get older, we can see and we can feel time, Jared. Like, so you've had a few Christmases now with your daughter. You're like, yeah, I know what Christmas feels like. I know what it's like to buy presents in December. You know what the feels, right? So, you know, 10-day blocks, it's past 7. You can see into week 2, right? And when you're into day 20, you can see back into day 7. But yet, if you look at 10 days, your first day is kind of like whatever. Then you get into that second day. Well, you're on second day. You only got 8 days left with really kind of one freebie, right? Yeah. So it's more than 7. It's less than 14. It's kind of a sweet spot with one free day. I call it a flex day. I call them flex goals. I'm actually working on a program to share it with the internet here soon. You'll see it coming up, but it's called flex goals. And I believe in flex goals more than smart goals because life gets in the way. And if you can worry about putting less lists and more lists and just focus on getting the goal done and living life, I think you'll get shit done. But anyways, that's for another conversation.
Dude, we can talk so much about flexible goals. Like, honestly, man, I think that is goddamn brilliant because I literally have a post coming out at some point soon, basically saying no matter what you're building, doesn't matter what you're building, it's going to take way longer and require way 100%. More resources than what you need. So why have a fixed goal and that's why I was saying before too, right? Like I had goals, but they were flexible because I understand you can't be
smart goals were invented when they made the lunchbox. They said, okay, because they made the lunchbox to walk to the factory because it was an 8 to 5 world, right? So it was like, okay, we got to make a lunchbox. Okay, to make a lunchbox, we got to put some goals here. Okay, we need a framework for the goal to make the lunchbox. It was 1928 at the time. Anyways, I'm being joking, but you get my point. Smart goals don't resonate in 2024.
Nah, not at all. I completely agree with you.
Jared, what can you leave the audience before we say goodbye? I want to make sure the audience knows anything about you or the agency that I did not ask about or I didn't get on the table because we had a wonderful chat today. But here's your 30 seconds, minute, whatever you need to offer up to the audience what you want to say before we say goodbye.
For sure. So what I would say is for any North American brand who is looking to engage deeper with their consumers to help drive trial, to drive velocity, to get those products moving off a shelf, whether that's a physical or a virtual one, I would love to talk. If you've managed to make it through this entire time, I think can tell that, you know, if you're not the right fit, I'll tell you straight up that you're not the right fit, and I'll introduce you to people who are. But that's my one of my big objectives. Let's do that. Anyone who wants to talk, I'd love to talk to you and figure out what we can do to help you out and connect you with the right people to make 2024 a success for your brand.
Awesome. Jared Kligerman, thanks for joining me today live in the lab. I'm going to stick you back in the green room for a quick second. I'm just going to say goodbye to the audience over this recording, then come back and walk you out, okay?
Awesome. Sounds good, man. Thanks again for having me on.
Awesome. Hang tight. Boom. All right. So there's Jared Kligerman, CPG expert. Don't know how to leave it any more than that. He's a CPG guy. And I love what he said, right? If you're going to go to get an MBA, ask yourself why first. Because I like what he did. Sure, he had his MBA already, but he's like, no, I'm going to go start a company. So he probably spent whatever it was, 20 grand, 50 grand, 100 grand, but you're going to spend a lot of money in education. Well, fuck, man, go start a business. Go learn from that. You're going to learn more doing that than probably going to get some knowledge you can get elsewhere. Anyways, food for thought. I'm here Monday to Monday, creating content, as Jared and I talked about, noon central, LinkedIn, YouTube, and X. You'll find me. We'll see you guys tomorrow.